Hi crochet friends, welcome back to my channel. I'm Stefania, and today I thought I would try out this unicorn crochet kit from the dollar store. I just got back from a long vacation to the US, during which I visited a couple of my friends. One of those friends was kind enough to gift me a bunch of yarn and some other craft supplies, including this kit. She offered me 4 of these kits initially, but because of my limited suitcase space, I decided to just pick one. I ended up going for the unicorn because I thought it was the most unique shape. And if the picture is anything like it's going to turn out, it's going to be super cute. I'm really excited to see how good this kit is, considering it was only $1.25. So let's open it up and see what we have. Starting off, we've got the little packet of directions. They show how to do an increase stitch and a decrease stitch. But based off of the first look, this would not be a kit that I would recommend to a beginner. It's going to take me a little bit of puzzling to figure out how they're describing the directions because it's not in a standard way. It seems like they wanted this kit to be for beginners because they have instructions, including diagrams of how to make a magic circle and how to do a chain stitch and a single crochet, but the pattern itself just has these little diagrams instead of a standard step-by-step like you might be used to seeing. Let's see what else this kit has. We've got a couple of safety eyes and a yarn needle, a plastic crochet hook, and it does not specify what size hook this is, a little packet of stuffing, which doesn't feel like it's going to expand very much, and the yarn. We've got white for the body of the unicorn, some yellow for the horn, and some rainbow colors for the hair and tail. First off, this yarn does not feel very good on my fingers. It kind of has a rough texture, which is surprising. The hook, besides being plastic, also has an unfinished bit at the end, which I'm just gonna pick off so I don't have that scratching me the entire time. But I don't have high hopes with this hook, so I do have this 2.5 millimeter on standby in case I just want to give up on the plastic hook. After looking through the directions for a bit longer, I think I've figured out what they want me to do, so I'm gonna get started and see what happens. Oh, and right off the bat, this hook feels like it wants to snap in half. I'm going to really try to use the plastic hook as long as I can, because if a kit works well, it should have everything required to make the project. Okay, I've got my magic ring closed. Now to do some increased stitches. Like I showed, the directions only have a diagram and a small chart including the number of stitches for each round, but without any written instructions. Normally you would see something like round 1, 6 single crochets in a magic ring, but here it just says R1, 6, R2, 12. As an experienced crocheter, I know that that means I have to put an increased stitch in each of the 6 stitches in the magic ring. But as a beginner's kit, I wouldn't really know what they mean if I didn't have that knowledge previously. I think if I were a beginner picking up this kit, I would have gotten frustrated and quit before I even got to this point. Okay, I've finished the directions for the headpiece. As you can see, there's still quite a big hole at the bottom. Now the directions say before you close off the head, add the eyes and stuff with fiber fill. However, there's no directions on how to actually close the piece or indications of where on this head I should put the eyes. So again, luckily for me, I have some crochet knowledge, but for a beginner, it's just not enough instructions to create a good project. So based off of my crochet knowledge, I'm gonna take these safety eyes and see where I think they should go based on the picture. Now it looks like the top of the piece is the top of the head, so I can imagine there's gonna be a horn coming out there. So I'll want one of my eyes here maybe. And the other one can go here. So I'll have the horn coming out the front and the nose piece crocheted on here. Yeah, I think I'm happy with that. So I'll go ahead and put the backs on. And now fill with stuffing. Now based on the picture and the pattern, it looks like the head is actually a bit larger than the body is going to be. I'm gonna try to only use about half of the stuffing, maybe a little bit less, and see how far that gets us. We're also going to have to stuff all of the other pieces of this project, so it'll be interesting to see how far the stuffing gets. Okay, I had taken a little less than half the stuffing, and firmly stuffing the head, there's still a good chunk left. So maybe we do have enough stuffing for this full project. Well, there's our little headpiece, looking more like a little guy than a unicorn, but it's only the beginning. Since there's no directions on how to close the head, but it does say before you close, add the eyes and stuffing, I'm gonna go ahead and just close this as I would any other piece. Alright, now we've got a closed head with a tail for sewing it onto the body once that's done. I'm already starting to see some gaps in the ball of yarn, so honestly I'm skeptical that there's going to be enough, but let's start the body and see how far we get. Had us starting with 8 in the magic circle, increasing to 16, and then increasing to 19. So without those written out instructions, I'm having to go back and study the diagram to see if I can figure out where they want me to put these increased stitches. It looks like they just want them spaced out, unevenly, I might say, but as long as we get the right number of stitches, I'm sure it'll be fine. I'm just noticing now that the diagrams show a chain at the beginning of each round, but there's no mention of a slip stitch at the end of the round. So again, if you are brand new to crocheting, which this seems to be a kit directed towards beginners, you would easily end up with the wrong number of stitches very quickly in your rounds. For the body piece, they have us decreasing down to 4 stitches before stuffing and filling the piece, but I'm going to go ahead and stuff it before I decrease to 4 because I think the hole will just be too small by that point. I stuffed this piece quite firmly since it's supposed to be the body, and all the other pieces will be sewn onto it. But as I predicted by looking at the pattern, the body is a lot smaller than the head is. Or I guess you could say they're roughly the same size. With the head and body taken care of, it's time to make the 4 feet. that's our 4 little legs done. The next step is to make the horn. Moving on to the yellow yarn. Okay, I'm confused. In what world is that a horn? There is plenty of yellow yarn left, so I could improvise and make a different horn, but I am testing the kit to the way it was written, so we're gonna just leave the horn how it is and move on to the nose. And there's our nose. We now have all the pieces of the unicorn crocheted, so now it's time to sew it all together and hope for the best. There's no real directions on how to sew all the pieces together, more of just the placement. So again, I'm having to rely on my pre-existing knowledge of how to sew pieces of crochet together. Like the plastic crochet hook, this needle is quite thin and flimsy, so I'm having to be mindful that I don't pull on it too hard and break it. Now to add the feet. The directions don't really specify how to tie the ends after sewing the pieces on. I actually secured all of the white pieces out where I'm going to put the tail, so I think I'll just leave them out and have some white feet in my tail as well. As for the yellow, that one comes out where the mane goes, so I'll again just leave it where it is. The directions aren't very clear for the mane and tail. All it says is for the mane and tail, insert individual pieces of colors, as shown in the illustrations and pictures. Tie a knot in the middle of each individual piece of yarn to keep each piece in place. Well, I looked everywhere for the illustrations and pictures, and the only picture they really show is this one here, which doesn't really depict how to add on or tie the mane and tail pieces. So again, I'm left using my own existing crochet knowledge to make this piece. So I'm gonna take these 3 pieces and the yellow from the horn and match them all up. There's enough yellow to do 2 strands, so I'm going to do that. I'm going to use some of the leftover white yarn from the unicorn and add that to these pieces as well. Then I'm going to take all of these and fold the length in half and cut them, fold in half and cut. You know what, we're gonna fold it in half and cut it once again. This will give me some short pieces of yarn that I can use. I'm then going to take the crochet hook and insert it through where I want the top of the mane to go. As you can see, I have my hook here through where I want the mane to start. I'll then take the first piece of yarn, fold it in half, put the middle of the yarn on the hook and pull it through. I'm then going to reach through and grab the ends of the yarn and pull it through that loop so that I have these 2 lengths attached to the mane. I'm going to go ahead and repeat that process all the way down where I want the mane to be. I'm also going to use multiple pieces of yarn at once just to make this process go a bit faster. As I add more strands onto the mane, you can see it start to take shape. I'm glad that so many of you have been enjoying my crafting content. It's been so exciting seeing this community grow, and it looks like we'll be able to reach 100 by the end of the year. If you're enjoying this video, make sure you're subscribed to my channel. There, I think she's got enough of a mane at the moment. I'm gonna add on some yarn to the tail. Since I already have a lot of white yarn coming out where I want the tail to go, I'm actually going to just use 2 of these longest strands to attach the rest of the yarn. I'm going to take a bundle of the yarn and place it in between 2 of the white strings that are in the tail area. I'm then going to tie a knot that's as tight as I can possibly make it in order to hold all of these rainbow yarns in place. Then I just need to fluff it up, and I've got my unicorn tail. I still have some bits of yarn left over, but I think my unicorn has enough hair, so I'm just gonna leave it off to the side. The final thing I want to do for my unicorn is give her a haircut so her ends are a little bit more even. So I'll just take my scissors and, holding the tail out of the way, I'm gonna just go ahead and trim her mane. There, it's a bit more straight. I'm also gonna trim the tail so they're all at the same length. And there she is! My little unicorn is complete. Let me know if you have any name suggestions in the comments down below. Comparing the finished piece to the original photo, I think I got decently close. My biggest critique is honestly the shape of the horn. Although it's understandable that for a beginner it's harder to make a smaller piece than one that starts with 6 in the magic round, I think there's other ways they could have gone about creating the horn in the first place to make it a bit more pointy. But for what it is, I think this unicorn turned out honestly a lot cuter than I was expecting. In terms of the supplies, we did actually have some stuffing left over, which was surprising. We also ended up with quite a bit of the white yarn left over, as well as some of the colorful scraps. As far as the tools go, I don't see myself using either of these in the future. The hook was just very bendy, and honestly I was afraid of breaking it at any point. And the same goes for the needle, it's just too flexible for my liking. It took me a little more than an hour to make this project, and it would have taken me a lot longer if I didn't know how to crochet or sew. If a beginner were to pick up this kit, they would end in frustration and probably not want to learn how to crochet after that, which is honestly a shame. I've already partially reviewed the directions as I went, but honestly they left a lot to be desired. It's a little confusing because they spend half of the directions describing how to crochet, how to hold the hook, and even how to make a magic circle. But when it comes to the actual directions of how to make this unicorn, you would need more than a beginner's knowledge of how to crochet in order to accomplish this piece. So I'm really not sure who their target demographic is. It's not beginners because the pattern is unusable, and it's not intermediates because of the poor quality in the hook and the yarn needle. I suppose they're going after people who really want to make a cute little unicorn, but that being said, if you already have some crochet knowledge, I think it would be a lot easier to pick up some yarn and find a free pattern online. Sure, it'll cost you a little bit more than $1.25, but there's something to be said about the price really reflecting the quality of what you're getting. If I were to give this kit a score out of 5, I would probably give it a 1.5. It had enough materials to make the project, but the quality of the hook and the needle, as well as the poor instructions, left a lot to be desired. And honestly, the quality of the yarn wasn't that great either. It felt very scratchy and honestly made me feel like I had to sneeze most of the time I was working with it. So even if you love unicorns and have been tempted by this $1.25 kit, I would honestly say skip it. Thanks so much for watching till the end of the video. If you liked this video, leave a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. It really helps me out a lot. I make new videos every week, including crochet tutorials, check-in videos, and other craft content. If you have any suggestions for videos you'd like to see, leave them down in the comments section below. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!